Hello, everyone. Ex-Wall Kill Bethelite here. And one of the big problems with Jehovah's Witnesses is depression. Uh, and one of the main reasons or causes of that depression is the actual Jehovah's Witness religion. Now, why is that? Well, one of the main scriptures, 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. And I think in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, it says something to the effect of, well, know this, in the last days, perilous times will be here. Or in other Bibles, in the last days, terrible times will be here. For Jehovah's Witnesses, they are constantly looking for the fulfillment of that verse. They're constantly looking for something terrible or perilous, whether it be COVID, whether it be the war between Russia and Ukraine. They're constantly looking for something on the news, in current events, something bad, because they're constantly looking for the end of the world. So a person whose religion, their very beliefs, surround the constant search for depressing things, to happen, because in their mind that means the end of the world is close. Well, that could cause that person to be depressed. Have you ever been around somebody that's always sad, always moping around? It kind of, at some point, starts to make you feel a little depressed, right? Well, if you are in a congregation full of people always talking about how terrible the system is, how bad everything is, how the end of the world is around the corner, and that means that this group of people will die and this group of people will be saved, and you need to be worried about being in the group of people who will die. Well, that's going to cause depression, and that depression is going to be contagious. It's going to go from one person to the other throughout that congregation, because they're spending a lot of time focusing on depressing things. You don't have Jehovah's Witnesses doing a lot of work in the community as far as charities. They don't really focus a lot of their attention on recreation, basketball, fun things. No, they focus the majority of their time studying, time talking with each other, not only talking about the end of the world, but looking for things that would fit 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. Terrible things, perilous things. So if your life, especially if you're born and raised in that religion, and your whole life is centered around looking for something negative, not just in current events, looking for signs of the end of the world, terrible things that make you think, oh man, the end of the world is close, but also terrible things within each other. Judgment, shunning. Part of the shunning, how do we get to that point of shunning someone? Part of that is judging. So they're not just in an environment where they're constantly looking for terrible and perilous things to make them feel like the end of the world is around the corner to fit their doctrine, but you're also surrounded by a whole bunch of people that are constantly judging you. Did you do your watchtower? If you didn't, you're a terrible person. Did you make it to the meeting? If you didn't, you're a terrible person. Did you watch this movie or that movie? If you watched it, you're not spiritual enough. Constant judging. The constant need to find something negative, not just in current events, but in everyone. If that's a person's life, the life of a Jehovah's Witness involves constantly focusing your mind on negative things, judging, and finding whatever makes you feel like the end of the world is close. So Watchtower is constantly looking for that, constantly looking to keep people in fear, especially now. Now they're trying to get people to go back to meetings. Well, a lot of people are wanting to stay home and watch the meeting on Zoom. If Watchtower wants everybody coming back to the meetings, what do they have to then focus a lot on? Fear mongering. The end of the world is around the corner, right? They need to really talk a lot about Armageddon and talk a lot about the need for them to rely on Watchtower to survive. So being a Jehovah's Witness, part of the religion is depression. You can't focus on that all the time and not be depressed. You can't focus on that the majority of the time, or it can't be the majority of your doctrine. Looking for bad things to reinforce that you think the end of the world is close. So, unfortunately, to deal with this depression, one would have to distance themselves to a certain extent from all that negativity. There's other churches where they're talking about being saved and they talk about Jesus Christ, and that's the foundation of their teachings is being saved, Jesus Christ, a lot of singing, a lot of shouting, a lot of people being happy, a lot of people trying to get through the other side of the struggle. Well, with Jehovah's Witnesses, the focus is on doom, destruction, doomsday, negative things that make us think we're close to doomsday, a lot of judging and shunning, not looking at a person from the standpoint of them getting past or beyond the struggle, but judging them for the struggle itself and putting them in a category of not spiritual. Spiritual and not spiritual. They're not doing enough. Well, when you compare most churches to Jehovah's Witnesses, you see that Jehovah's Witnesses, they are centered in negativity. So again, the only real solution to depression, feeling down, feeling upset, feeling sad for Jehovah's Witnesses is to leave that cult, because it's too focused and centered, and the foundation of it is negativity, it's doom, it's destruction, it's God's going to kill everybody but a small group of people, and we need to constantly talk about that all the time. So comment down below, let me know what you think about this, but yeah, 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1. It may be put differently in different Bibles, but it basically says in the last days, terrible times will be here, terrible things. Jehovah's Witnesses focus on those terrible things in the news, anything negative they can find, gathering negativity. That's what they focus on, because to them, they need to constantly be reminded about Armageddon. That's a major pillar of their faith. Constantly be reminding themselves about the end of the world and Armageddon and negative things going on in the world. There's a lot of positive things going on in the world, but they can't focus on that. If they focus on that, then they will sound like they're saying the end of the world is not as close as what they want it to be. So they've got to constantly think of death, murder, crime, robbery, war, sickness, pestilence. That's what they have to be mindful of all the time, to constantly remind themselves of Armageddon. Well, when you're constantly thinking of negative things to remind yourself of Armageddon, you can become depressed to the point where the only solution is to get away from all that negativity. To get away from Jehovah's Witnesses, because they focus on negative things, and your mental health is important. So 937-789-4029. We'll discuss it and comment your thoughts down below. X Walk Hill Bethelite signing out.